What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I'm doing another collection update. Kind of a mishmash of different styles in this one, but a lot of good music, so let's get into it. Insomnium Heart like a grave. These guys have been one of my favorite melodic death metal bands for a while. They're from Finland. They have a little bit of that folky touch to their music. Really great use of keyboards, and I'm a real stickler when it comes down to keyboards. Love this album. It's another really good one. These guys have been on a tear for a while in terms of solid release after solid release. Particularly like the track Pale Morning Star. I thought that one was absolutely epic. Just check out this entire album. It's out on Century Media. Another solid release from these guys. If you like melodic death metal, you'll love this. Syberia, Seeds of Change. This is an all-instrumental post-metal slash shoegaze slash prog metal band. Even metal might be a bit of a stretch, but it's very dense and layered and lush. It does have some heavier moments on here, but I don't think it's solidly 100% metal. But if you're a big fan of Russian Circles, this band is very comparable. I think this is an excellent release. I definitely need to check out more of their stuff. Apparently they have some other releases. This came out on Metal Blade through Blacklight Media, and I really dig this. The whole album is really well constructed. Just really epic sounding songs on here. Again, I definitely need to get more of these guys. But yeah, definitely check them out. It's a really good listen. The Furor Calvaries of the Occult. This was one of the ones I got in the Metalhead box last month on Transcending Obscurity. And this is a high-speed black and death metal band from Australia. Very, very fast and thrashy style of death metal in terms of the death metal side of them. It kind of reminds me of a Black and Death version of a band like Deicide or Malevolent Creation. I believe it's only 2 members in the studio. I think the drummer also spent time in Impiety as well. It's a pretty decent release. Songs kind of run in together, a little cluttered. They kind of stick to that same gear for the most part. Not a lot of groovy sections. It just stays pretty much firmly planted on the blast beat gas pedal. But not a bad release. Definitely worth checking out if you like Black and Death metal and you want to hear some really fast shit. Check it out. Plaguewielder, Chambers of Death. This is the band's first full-length out on Horror, Pain, Gore, Death Productions. This band's from Luxembourg, and they're kind of a combination of doom metal, sludge metal, maybe a bit of death metal, and then some kind of avant-garde-ish kind of stuff. Some of the songs in here are really strange. Right away it opens up with an isolated vocal line, and I really didn't care for the vocals on this. They're just kind of a really anguished growl slash scream. Really didn't get into it. But some of the stuff in here gets a little experimental and odd. Like, it kind of reminded me of a less put together Inter Arma, but with keyboards that are kind of strange. There's even a part on here that kind of reminded me of like a Danny Elfman score from some Tim Burton movie. Just a little strange sometimes. First release from these guys though, and they seem pretty young, so still kind of finding their direction. But it's an interesting listen. Definitely recommend checking it out if you just want to hear something a little different. Check it out. Diocletian Gesundrian. Decided I'd check out another release from Diocletian. These guys are from New Zealand. This is out on Osmos Productions. And this is a little bit better than the one I had before. It still kind of suffers from the same thing where it kind of gets just lost in being insanely heavy. This is Black and Death slash war metal, which is kind of a thing, I guess. I like the production on this one. I think it's a little bit clear, but it still is very heavy. Like, this is very in-your-face, just black and death metal with, I think, a touch of grindcore in here. Like, there's definitely some grind aspects to this. I think the longer songs in here are the strongest ones. Steel Jaws and Beast Atop the Trapezoid, I thought were particularly good. But yeah, this band's still growing on me. I still want to check out more of the releases, but this one was definitely better than the last one I picked up, which is the newest one, which I'd still recommend checking out just if you want to hear something insanely heavy. But yeah, this one's pretty good. Check it out. Exhorder, Mourn the Southern Skies. This is their first album in 27 years, I believe. Out on Nuclear Blast, and this is a return to form for these guys. This just comes out swinging. I love their first 2 albums. I think this one might even be better, if not on par with at least The Law. This is just a kick-ass release. It's straightforward, groovy thrash metal, or thrashy groove metal. Take your pick. Awesome songwriting. Kyle Thomas sounds great on this. His vocals are really solid. And the guitar work is exceptionally good in here. It's riff after memorable riff. It's really awesome. Hell of a comeback album for these guys. If you haven't checked this out yet, definitely check it out. It is an awesome listen. Monolord, Empress Rising. After that last Monolord release, I have to get some more of them because I really enjoyed this awesome brand of sludgy stoner doom metal. This is their first album. This came out on Writing Easy Records, and I think this is actually notably heavier. As far as like just being a grittier production, the guitar tone on here is monstrous, and the bass pretty much matches that. This is a really heavy release from these guys. I think their newest stuff definitely has more melody to it, but I still think this has some really good catchy bits to it. Once again, if you're a huge fan of sleep or anything like that, definitely check these guys out. I've definitely become a fan. Victims, the Horse and Sparrow Theory. This is a hardcore slash punk band slash D-beat band from Sweden. Really cool kind of dark, sullen atmosphere to this. Compared to the other Victims release I have, this has more mid-tempo moments and the songs are a bit longer. Pretty good stuff. I really enjoyed it, especially the song We Fail. I thought that was a really well-written song, and it's kind of carried by a lot of interesting audio excerpts. Kind of starts off a bit slow for me in terms of just heaviness and tenacity, but it gets there. The back half of this album I thought was particularly good. Definitely check it out if you like hardcore, crust punk, that sort of thing. It's a pretty solid listen. Iron Age, The Sleeping Eye. This is actually a reissue of an album that came out, I believe, 10 years ago. I forget what label it was originally on, but this is out on 20 Buck Spin. And I'm hoping it is a precursor to them getting back together and writing new music, because this is a really cool thrash band with little bits of kind of stoner doom to them, I guess. Kind of similar to High on Fire in a way, but I think more focused on the thrash side. I really, really enjoyed this original release, and I just had to pick up a reissue of it just because it has different artwork on it. And definitely recommend the song Burden of Empire. Is one of my favorite ones on here. This is a really cool release, and like I said, I hope these guys are getting back together. Disgrace, Grey Misery. This is a Finnish death metal band, at least at the time that this was released it was. This originally came out in 1992, and then not too long after that they shifted over to pretty much flat out punk. This is flat out really kind of grindy death metal. It kind of has a little bit of that punk feel to it, like you can definitely hear it in their music, but it is definitely death metal. Almost has kind of that Swedish buzzsaw tone to it, but the vocals are definitely more along the lines of a band like Demolish, like very deep, very gurgled. It's a pretty decent album. I've never heard any of their punk stuff, so I don't know if they became better after this. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a must-have, but it's an interesting listen. There's some weird vocal parts on here that I thought were kind of strange. Music is very straightforward, and you know, some of the songwriting may not be that flashy, but it definitely achieves heaviness, which is pretty cool. But yeah, check it out. Doomsday, Baphomet. This is an interesting mishmash of thrash metal and doom metal, essentially. And I say they do that really well. You definitely get the big doomy riffs, but it has a kind of a up-tempo feel. There's a lot of thrashy chugs on here, but somehow it still keeps that doomy atmosphere. The riffs are still very like high-speed Candlemass, I guess. Really interesting sound for the band. The vocals, however, I did not get into at all. They were really off-putting. The lyrics are really cheesy too, and it really took me out of it. And it's unfortunate because I'd like to hear more of their stuff, but the vocals just really just took me out of it. But I kind of like the idea of combining these two genres. I never really thought of those two genres working well together, but the music really kind of does. It's really interesting. But yeah, check it out. It's an interesting listen for sure. And then finally we have Entrails, Rise of the Reaper. This is the new one out on Metal Blade Records. It's a little bit of a change from their last release. This one actually has some more melodic death parts. I think the vocals are a little bit kind of more of a mid-range growl versus a lower growl now. So like the first couple of tracks really have a kind of a melodic death metal feel. It kind of just goes back and forth between the melodic death and Swedish death metal on this. But there's also some almost flat-out punk songs, D-beat Swedish death metal, but they are really geared towards the punk side. It's an interesting listen. I don't think it's as good as their last one, but I think it's a pretty solid release from these guys, and these guys are pretty consistent. I think this one's another good one. Definitely check it out, especially if you love Swedish death metal and melodic death metal. Alright, that does it for another collection update. I'm going to get back to listening to more music, obviously, more reviews coming, and hopefully a discography review soon. So, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do shit like this all the time. Catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.